Hey guys, today I'm going to walk through how to set up a brand new website on our platform called Cloudways. So inside of Cloudways, you can see all of the various different servers that we currently have. Most new websites would actually go right now on the small business 2 server unless they're going to be church press related, and then they would go on the church press 2 server. If we're working with an existing client and we're creating a brand new fresh install, like I'm about to show you with Smead Capital, then you would actually look down, find the server that they're associated with, and obviously clear it through myself or Tim. But then you would go ahead and build that out with them. So that's kind of how we did Fathercraft originally. You can see there was a Fathercraft, a staging Fathercraft, a staging 2 Fathercraft. We also did that recently with Dare to Share. So there's the D2S main new site, and then there's the old site. So this is where there's 2 different installations. Inside of Fathercraft, you can see there are actually 2 staging server installations or staging website installations. So there's a couple different ways we can do things, but again, a brand new, fresh, clean install is what this video is about. So I'm going to walk you guys through that. Now, basically, in this case, we're going to be working with Smead Capital. So like I showed you, there's Smead Cap, and then there's a staging Smead Cap. If you go ahead and click into here on the actual server itself, it will give you this little bottom, little menu bar. If you just hover over that, you can click Add App. So this is going to add the application. You don't want to do anything else in this server area whatsoever. You can mess things up. So just be very careful, but click Add App, and then it will take you to this screen where you actually add the application. So in this case, you just click this first column. You can see there's some different versions. Most of the people that we work with are going to go for the top version right under WordPress, not multi-site. We rarely ever want to do that. And in this case, they do not have e-commerce, but we could potentially install a version of WooCommerce with WordPress. In this case, we're not going to, so version 5.6. And then basically you just want to name it something that's different than the current name that you already have out there. So in this case, we'll just do like Smead Cap, and then it'll be new. And then over here, I also have projects set up. These don't mean anything whatsoever. It's not the end of the world if you don't do something with it, but you can scroll down, find the folder that's already been set up, or set up a new project if you want. You can set them up in that top area. In this case, I'll click Smead Cap, and then I'll add the application. So now what's actually going on is it's building the instance for the actual web application that's going to exist for the new Smead Capital website. Once it builds the instance, then we'll have an actual WordPress installation. We'll have the ability to go and create usernames and logins and all kinds of other stuff, add plugins, things of that nature. From the development side, we'll be able to go in and actually change the configuration so that we can log in via FTP or SFTP, which is also really good to be able to do. Now for this one, because a lot of our websites, and I can just show you an example of one really quick here in the case of Newman Realty Group. So I have Newman Realty Group. You can see the application URL for newmanrg.com. But you can also go back over here and click on the staging and see that this application URL is like WordPress-509540 and a bunch of other crazy stuff. So a lot going on there. A client is not necessarily going to remember this URL. We can always remember it a little bit internally because we can log in and see it. But in this case, sometimes we may want to make this a cleaner URL. And that's what I want to do for Smead Capital. They're the kind of client where they're going to be logging in quite a bit, checking it out, looking at it every day. They don't want to remember a big, long URL. So in order to do that, we're actually going to have to click over in the left sidebar. So if you saw what I did there, there's servers, apps, and then inside of here, Smead Cap-new. I can click there. I can see everything that's associated with it. In fact, you can even click on bot protection and make sure it's active, which is also a really good thing to do at first. But then we can go down to domain management. inside of here, I actually want this to be new.smeedcap.com. And then I want to save changes. So that is what the actual URL is going to be. And then I'll show you how we're actually going to point that to the URL. So there's another service. I'm going to open a new tab. There's another service here called Cloudflare. This is what we use, and it's a little bit tricky because it does have what is called two-factor authentication. So whenever I come in through here and I log in, then it's going to ping me and say, hey, just go ahead and enter the authenticator app code or a recovery code, and then it'll be able to give me access. So in this case, I do have an app. If you don't have access to an app, make sure that you get that before we do anything else. And then you can log in. Now, once I'm logged in, I'll actually go over here to smeedcap.com, and looks like we're actually going to hit a hang up simply because this one is not located yet on this particular instance. So for them, we're in network solutions. So it's going to be the same process actually. And inside of network solutions, we'll be able to go in and see the good grief, all kinds of stuff here. But we'll be able to go in and see the actual DNS configurations. And so you can see right here, I'm going to choose Smeedcap. I'm going to edit the DNS. It's the same process over inside of the Cloudflare account as it is right here. And then we'll manage advanced DNS records. Now, once we're in here, we can actually do a couple of things. First, you want to see this is the URL that we want to be pointing everybody to. And so sometimes you're not able, and I think this is one of those, you're not able to point a record to a URL. It can only be an IP address. So instead, what we can go down to is right here where it says host aliases and CNAME records, and edit a CNAME record. So for a CNAME record, I'm going to come in and I'm going to put new, and then we can just refer to the host name. That's totally fine. And I'm going to paste this in here. And I'm actually going to change this to 600 because this is the seconds of time to live. So it's basically saying, do this and then give me a little bit of time to make sure I have it all together. So once I go through there, I can, I guess it is going to make you choose the app, go through there, click continue, and it should give you another warning, of course. So we'll make it as low as we can for this particular server, and then we'll save changes. Now, a lot of times these will say it's going to take 24 to 48 hours for DNS changes to update throughout the internet. There's a couple of ways around that. And one of those is to actually browse in private mode. So you can browse in incognito on Chrome, I believe it is, in private in Safari, or you can do a few other tricks. We'll just see what this has done. Just go ahead and make sure we save the changes. I think it's all good, actually. So we'll actually flip over to access details, and there's the new.smeedcap.com. So when I click there, boom, it's already set up. Everything's there. We're good to go. So now what we can actually do is we can go in here and add /wp-admin. And this is going to give us kind of the, hey, it's not a private connection, it's freaking out, all that, but you can read it through and then just still go visit the website and visit the website. And it's actually going to make me sign in on this side. Okay, we're good. Now, once you're here, the admin panel, and there's the URL, just in case you forget it, is going to have the username and password to log in if you don't already have one. Since we're starting a website from scratch, we're not going to have one. Nobody is going to have one yet. So we're going to click there. We're going to click log in and save password for me. And then now we're in here. Now, a couple of things that we always want to do first. We want to hover over settings, and we want to go down to permalinks. And there's some kind of bug, and it always adds this giant thread of permalink stuff. We simply want to delete that, click off of it, and then click back in it and choose post name. If you are a site that's going to have a bunch of blogs, you might actually choose category first and then post name. So we'll just do that because they do have some blogs. And if you don't have anything, you can always just literally choose post name and it'll take care of it all. So you save changes once and then save changes again. That will update everything across the board. The next thing you want to do is click on general. And inside of general, we actually want to change the site title to the site title for their website. So in this case, Smead Capital Management. And we can just do something like welcome for now. And then we're going to come down here and save changes. Now, a couple other things you can do at this point is you can come in here and choose SSL certificate. This would be especially if you have applied your settings and you're still not getting access. It just never fails that there can be things that go wrong. So if that does happen, then in this case, you can enter the email and then new.smeadcap.com. Don't apply a wildcard for this one unless it's just smeadcap.com. So then once we do that, we can just install that certificate. And it'll even bring up a little bit more that we might have to go modify. And that's okay. It's just one more step that has to go through. While that's working though, we can go ahead and start loading the site together for what we want to start with. And the very first thing we want to do is click appearance, then themes and add new, and then search for Astra. Once Astra comes up, we're going to click install and then activate. And then we're going to add new theme, upload theme, choose file. And in this case, we're actually going to go onto our Soulheart Dropbox, go down to themes, and we're going to choose the soul-core.zip. So once we get that, we'll go ahead and install and then activate. And everything should be good. One thing I like to do is make sure all updates are made across the board for everything. So we'll just click up on that updater that you saw on the previous screen, select all, update themes. Should be really simple and quick, and we're good to go. So now, again, you can click here, see your site. It's changed a little bit. Here's the basic outline of the website. And we can go back on the WordPress piece here and then start loading the plugins. So it's going to have this Hello Dolly plugin. The very first thing you want to do is actually delete that one. It's trash. We don't care about it. It also has this Akismet anti-spam. Used to, I was really big on this. Lately, it hasn't done much for us, so we're just going to delete that as well. Then before we jump into the plugins, let's just go and double check what we got over here on Cloudways. So the next step is going to be to enable the HTTPS redirection. This is, yes, you want to make sure that everything on the site is enabled. So there's HTTPS, and then you're just going to click that button. It will enable it, and that means that you also have to make sure that you add the little certificate or the little pathway to your DNS settings to make sure that everything is flowing and running properly from there. So there's a whole lot of steps that go into it, but once it gets that, click close, and everything should be set up and good. In this case, it didn't actually have us do any more setup configuration for it, so that's good. I think we already had what's called the Acme Challenge code already working, so everything looks good, should be set up well, and we should be good to go. We can also check on just a few things around the application settings. There are several different settings in here that can be useful at sometimes. HTTPS redirection is enabled. It is included here. Sometimes there's issues that go on there. And then XML RPC access, we always want to make sure that's disabled unless there's a development reason for it to be enabled. For those of you that are working on server files or just generally having issues ever, this little button right here, you can refresh files and folder permissions if needed. That's good if we're dragging plugins from one app to another, but not really that necessary today. There's also some varnish settings. We don't really do anything with that, so it should not really come up to play for anything else. And then if you're ever migrating content into here, there is a plugin that they have that could potentially be useful. In this case, it really isn't for us. And then the one last thing, just to check, in case you are working on a server that's been around for a while, and we just want to always make sure that everyone on the team that has access checks for various services, make sure that everything's running good all the time. And so you just want to look the managed services on the server itself. Everything looks really good. If there's ever any major issues, you can always restart these and see if anything has changed there. New Relic, we never really want to be running because it's really um, server time consuming and bandwidth consuming. And then you want to click on settings and packages. And for the memory limit for all of our servers, because we use Elementor, it needs to be at 512. If you're ever editing an Elementor and it starts to spin and not do anything, then you can come here and increase this to 600 or 700. I really wouldn't go much more than maybe like 800 if needed. And you don't really even want to go this high, but we just have to for Elementor. So that's something to double check on. There's some other different pieces of configurations in here. And then on this final one, with the packages themselves, if there's ever any updates like PHP or the database, you can come and click this little edit button and then see, is there another one? Right now there's 10 or 7.4 and 10.4 are the highest, so there's nothing in there. But it is something to double check every now and then. Once again, just because you're already in here, you might as well make sure everything's running really, really good. Back over here, now it would be time to load the plugins. And there's quite a bit of plugins that really go towards some of the things that we want to have show up for the basic foundation core piece of the website. So if you go over here and you search should have and then resources, you'll be able to see all of the different plugin access points that we want to get, and they're found, and by access points, I mean the licenses, and they're found right under the WordPress dev area. So if you click on WP Astra, you can see all the licenses. There's also one for Elementor Pro, and then also for essential add-ons on Elementor. So several of these will be ones we want to utilize in order to get the site just foundation created itself. And how we're going to do that is we're going to go to plugins and we're going to just start uploading the plugins. Back to that Dropbox area, WordPress, and then plugins. And you can see like there's several in here. From like Astra add-ons, portfolios, and premium sites, and all kinds of stuff. So we're just going to walk through. You can't upload multiple ones. I've tried a couple things before to allow us to do that, and it just doesn't really work too well. So there are times where this advanced custom fields will come into play, but that will just be more in development, so I wouldn't worry about it for now. So for now, we'll do install the Astra add-on. What I do is I wait to activate them until the end. So then I just click back, plugin installer, upload, choose file, and then just keep going down from there. So in this case, we'll do the portfolio, plugin installer again, keep going right down the list. These are the premium sites. We don't necessarily need this one, but I like having it in there just in case there's ever anything that we want to pull from a premium site. And those would be like the free Astra premium sites. Well, we pay for the pro level version of it, but they'll be premium sites, meaning they'll allow us to actually have some of the advanced features for like e-commerce driven sites or more robust designs. So it's always a good thing to add in there. This one does not have Beaver Builder, which is what BB is, and BlogBot real-time backup. This one, we normally would probably load it up, but right now we're maxed out on our solution. This is a malcare plugin that basically goes towards helping prevent attacks, and it also syncs up to allow us to update plugins in one central place. So nothing really to worry about on this one. Convert Pro and Cart Flows, they're both e-commerce driven things. And then over here, Elementor Pro, that is one that we want to do. So we're going to go install that one. And then we'll go over to plugin installer again. Now we'll just keep going down the list. So the next one was essential add-ons for Elementor. Definitely, that's one we use quite a bit. Back to the plugin installer, upload, and then we're going to go just make this a little bigger. There's an events calendar we don't need any facet WP. That's very just old and used to be standard, not so much anymore. Member press, we don't need official Facebook pixel. That was an old one as well, but we do want to have power pack elements. And then that ultimate Elementor. So these give like extensions that fit inside of Elementor itself. It's what we're going to be using to build the majority of the web page and the website. So anyway, ultimate Elementor would be in here. Just install it up and then go back in, double check all the things we want. And it looks like from there, there's WooCommerce. We don't need any of these. There is this WordPress SEO Premium, and this one is something that we definitely need. And in this case, it's probably okay to go ahead and just activate it, but it may not sync up because we need to buy the pro version for their staging site as well. But anyway, it's definitely something you want to make sure that you always get. And then the final one would actually be some sites where we'll use this WP Rocket. For their site, I don't think we're actually going to do that. And then there's also WP Schema Pro, which is where you can basically sort of design your search results and what they look like. So in this case, I think it probably would make sense to at least install the Schema Pro. Don't have to use it, even though it's installed. We can if we want, but we'll leave that all up to Tim. So once I get all of those installed though, then I'm going to go back to the installed plugins over here. I'm going to click this all button, bulk actions, and then activate everything at once, and it's going to freak out. So you're going to get all kinds of messages that are like license, put the license in, everything that it needs in order to be able to function. And there's going to be ones like this. They're like install Elementor now. Go ahead and click it. You need to have that installed. And this is just going to make sure that it installs the correct one. Once it's installed though, make sure to activate it. Otherwise you'll continue to get all these messages. Now, once all that's together, go back to the plugins area and you can see several of these. In this case, there's a connect and activate button. I've already got it linked to my account. We can make sure you guys have accounts as well if you don't already. And then you're just going to go through, activate it, and that's legit all you have to do for that one. From there, I just start going down the list. Please activate your license for essential add-ons for Elementor. So I'm going to click activate, and then I'm going to go to the add-ons and then legit just copy and paste these licenses into the plugins. So this one takes a little bit longer than some of the others. And once it goes again, it's going to activate it, but these sometimes get deactivated. So when that happens, you have to make sure that you do have the memory or all of the saved, or remember how to get to Shadev resources. And that way you can go back in here and reactivate everything that needs to be reactivated. So like I said, it takes a little bit long on that one. Everything else pretty standard. But again, I just keep going down the line. So there's Astra Pro. Just going to grab this one, go in, and this one's over here on the right. So you just go through, activate there. Once this one activates, I also typically will just go ahead and do activate all for the Astra Pro modules. And for some clients, what you can actually do is take this whole thing a step further, and you can go through and customize the name of the Astra options in order to make sure that a client doesn't know we're using Astra. Now, I'm not super concerned on that whatsoever, so it's not really a big deal. But for some different clients, and we want to kind of hide that, we do have that ability. And just Google it. They have plenty of knowledge base where they'll walk you through step by step what that looks like. So then each time I get done, I just click back over to plugins. This one's going to be the premium starter templates. Just going to go grab that one, click here, activate. The next one's going to be Schema Pro. I'm going to go grab that one, And once it activates, just click off, Schema Pro. Next one's going to be Ultimate Add-ons for Elementor, which is in here. And it's in there because it's part of the Astra suite. And then the last one is WP Portfolio. It's going to be the same concept. Now, once everything's activated, we want to go ahead and update all the plugins that we can. So in this case, it's going to be some automatic update. Things are not available. If that's the case, just hold Shift and refresh and then send. And it should send over a refresh to let us know that it's all synced up. If it's not, that's okay. Just, sometimes doesn't work right away and it kind of takes it a minute. So you can click around, click back onto it, see if that does it. If it doesn't do the trick, one of the last things I usually try is I'll log out and then I'll log back in. And if that doesn't do the trick, then it might just take a few minutes until that's all available. So in this case, none of it's available right now. There's a new version, really can't really do anything else other than we've already done. So I'm not too concerned about it. But we can go over here and see everything's still the standard concept. We can actually go and let's see, inside of the appearance, we can actually see the starter templates. So for some sites, we might click Elementor here and then actually choose one of the starter templates and say, if we decided, okay, hey, we want this to be our starter template, we can import a complete site, or we can just import the home template. Sometimes we may just want to pull in the home template because it has some features we really, really like. And then other times we want to do the complete site. In this case, since it is going to be from scratch, then I don't really think that we'll necessarily start with one of these, but it is there as a guide or a framework just in case we're like, yeah, we actually do. It is such a simple design. We could potentially use something like this one and just add features to it once we have that initial piece built out. One of the reasons I like some of these templates is honestly the navigation and the footer. Some of them are already pretty robust and they're built out. They look really nice. And so that's kind of a nice thing to have. But if not, that's okay. You can still run Elementor just like you can on any other page or site. So once everything's here and it's all good to go, you're ready to rock and roll. Now, one other thing, if you notice right here, there is no edit button. And the reason why is under the settings inside of reading, there is a homepage display option, and it's currently set to your latest posts. If you choose this as a static page, in this case, we'll just choose sample, click save, and then click back up here. Now you see it's changed. Now the edit page button is here. Now you can go edit page. And then once this comes up, you can actually click and edit with Elementor, just like normal. So that's kind of the nutshell of how everything gets set up, how I go through the process itself, what some of the key features are that I'm looking for, what some of the first plugins are that I want to actually create and update and build and get set up. But once all this is together, then now like some of these have various settings and you can click on and go explore or see what we've used on other sites. You can toggle everything or just certain things depending on what access points that you want clients to have. But ultimately, I feel like this is a really good way to kind of show what it starts out as. The final piece that you may have to come and look at every now and then is this area inside of the Elementor tools. So there is if something's not showing up correctly, there is a regenerate files next to regenerate CSS. So you can click that. Usually when I do that, I also click sync library. It just seems to help quite a bit. And then there is a replace URL setting. This usually just applies when you're working with a site that you've just gone from like new.smeedcap.com to smeedcap.com, but sometimes things can still carry over. So what we want to do is go to Cloudways, click on the smeedcap.new server, And then we want to, let's see, go over to, I believe it was domain management. Yeah, domain management, and copy this string right here, come back over here, paste that string in, and then do new.smeedcap.com and then replace URL. So, and needs to be valid, meaning you also need to make sure that you include the HTTP, and then we'll also do HTTPS after that. So 0 rows were affected there, which is good news. It's usually not supposed to, have glitched and have any issues, but this is just the double check and make sure. And so, yep, 0 rows affected, so we're good. And all that is perfect. Now, once you get all this together, everything's installed, you have it like you want it, and before you start making any major changes, just simply go to the backup and restore area and make sure to take a backup now. That way, everything's good, everything's installed, and if for some reason you do something that doesn't quite work out and you need to revert back to where you were just a few minutes ago, this will create that snapshot that allows you to do that. So it always says it's going to take a few minutes. It's really anywhere, like a site this size right now, it should be anywhere from a couple of minutes to 5 minutes at the top. So what I would do is just make sure that you just hang on this page long enough to see it progress into a completion state. Once it's done that, you're good to go and everything is ready to rock and roll. You can go straight into clicking on Smeed Capital Management and start building all the different pages from there. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ping me on Slack, and happy to help answer any of the questions you guys have, or if you have different ideas or things in the process that you see might be a little bit easier to streamline, all those are always things I would love to entertain. As you can see, once it's done here, backup's completed. If you need to restore back to here for some reason, just click restore application now. Very, very simple process.